Um, my name is Dr. Leanne Epling. I am a professor of psychology here at the University of Pikeville. I have been at the University of Pikeville. This is my 10th year. I was just promoted to professor for this year. I have been in Pikeville, Kentucky almost 10 years. I was originally from Michigan. I grew up my whole life in Michigan. I attended Central Michigan University, which is not even 30 minutes from where my parents live. So I basically went to school there basically for free, so I couldn't pass that up. But I actually really loved it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I started at Central Michigan University. I think I changed my major 4 or 5 times maybe in the 4 years of undergrad, and psychology was originally my minor. And I just kept loving all of my psychology classes so much that I eventually stopped listening to all the people who said, "What are you going to do with psychology? You can't do nothing with that." And I said, you know what? Psychology is what I enjoy. It's what I like. It's what I find I have a passion for. And I'm going to stop listening to everyone else, and I'm going to do what I want to do. So I think about halfway through my sophomore year, I changed my major to psychology. My minor was human growth and development. And I guess the rest is history, but I had I started out in biology. I briefly think I had a major in sports medicine. I think I briefly had a major in neuroscience, which is another passion of mine, but I quickly learned that organic chemistry was not for me. And of course that class was required for all 3 of those majors. And I was also a business major for a very short time, but I just found that obnoxiously boring. And so I finally settled on psychology, I think about halfway through my sophomore year, and the rest is history, I guess they say.
So, I have this image of a young college student trying to wrestle back and forth with these different interests, but to go back further, as a kid, right, when you were growing up as a kid, what did you want to do?
Oh, God, I wanted to be, at different points in my life, I think I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I love animals. My husband and I have 2 dogs and 7 cats in our house, and some fish and some other things. So I always loved animals, and I wanted to do that for a while. I think like every kid, I wanted to be president of the United States or an astronaut or something crazy like that. And then I realized I was afraid of heights.
Yeah. So
that's about it.
Did anything in life happen that really kind of spurred you on to the path that you're on now?
Yeah. Yes. When I was an undergrad, I had several really awesome professors in my psychology major, as well as in some of my minor classes and things like that were really inspiring to me. They were really engaging. They taught the material, but they did so in a way that was very engaging, and I could pay attention, and I just was fascinated with, and I was like, I could do that. I want to do that when I grow up. And then my graduate school mentor, when I did my master's and my PhD, was also an excellent teacher, an excellent researcher, but he had a huge impact on me throughout my graduate program. And the weird thing is I didn't know him until I started graduate school. I had never taken an undergrad class with this person before. I had done most of my undergraduate research in the neuroscience lab with rats. And I learned that I didn't want to work with rats. Back to my fascination with animals, I wanted to do neuroscience or something where I could do animal research until I realized that the rats had to die. And then I was like, yeah, no, that's not gonna work for me. Granted, I was probably not the best at this, because I named all the rats, and I would play with them, and, in between stuff, different trials and stuff, and I would name them all, and then I would get attached to them, and it was just not fun when the end came, and so I decided I didn't want to do rats anymore. But I still wanted to do something with behaviorism. And Dr. Johnson, who was my graduate advisor, did research on using behavior analysis to help infants, toddlers, and even adults sleep better. And that was a topic that just fascinated me, because throughout much of my life, I have had my own issues sleeping. And so that became a passion of mine as well, because I wanted to see partly if I could fix myself, but also I wanted to help other people, especially college students, because I knew a lot of my friends were having the same kind of issues that I was. And so I wanted to see if I could do something to help these individuals sleep better at night, with the idea that if they would get better sleep at night, they would do better in their classes and be more alert during the day and all of this other stuff. So that kind of became another passion of mine in graduate school.
This great idea of wanting to help people in ways that you also were, trying to journey with or suffer with. And so in your profession, we try to encourage people to dream big and think about all kinds of possibilities. But for yourself, when we think about a dream job, are you living it now, or is there a dream job out there?
I'm pretty happy where I am now. I'm not going to say I don't have, aspirations, beyond this. But I'm really happy. I love teaching. That is my passion, my calling, I guess, if you want to bring this video into it. I love teaching, and I love teaching here at the University of Pikeville. I've taught at a few other institutions, both that were somewhat larger than UPike. One was Delta State University in Mississippi, which has, I think, about 4,000 or 5,000 students when I was there. And then the other one was Michigan Tech in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I did a visiting there for a year, and I think they have about 7,000 students. And those, even though they were not that big, they still felt too big for me for what I wanted in my career. I went to Central Michigan University. There was, 20,000 students there. I was just a face in the crowd. Nobody knew my name. A few of the, the majors, and I got, to be friends and stuff through different organizations and stuff. But for the most part, I was kind of a bit of a loner. And when I got into teaching, I got to know a few of my students here and there, and I still keep in touch with a few that are from Delta State. But I didn't get to form those kind of close personal relationships with the students that I can do here, because there are, fewer of them, and I can get to know them better. I can get to know them outside of class better, and that is what I really wanted, and that's what brought me here to UPike, because I liked that smaller atmosphere where I could get to know my students better, get to know the other faculty better. There was people who worked at the other institutions, and I'm not saying I know everybody here at UPike. I still probably don't, but I at least recognize faces. And I know students here at UPike that have never taken a class with me. Through sports or other activities, I know students here that have never taken classes with me.
Well, as you think about your life so far, I know it's hard to try to summarize a life in a sentence, but I wonder if you were to try to put your call or life's meaning into a sentence, you know, how would you do that?
Oh, that's one sentence?
It's a tough one.
Have you not noticed by the fact that I ramble that I am not good with one sentence? My calling in one sentence. Well, I'm going to give you a little backstory before I give you my one sentence. From the time I was very little, I knew I didn't want to have children of my own. I'm not a maternal type person. I knew I didn't want, I didn't want to have children on my own. I originally didn't want to get married. And that was one thing that Larry and I agreed on when we did get married, is that we would not. But I do have my pets, but I wanted to do something, and this is where my sentence comes in. I wanted to find a way to give back to the next generation and pass on my knowledge and expertise to the next generation without having, my own personal children. I feel like I can do that through my students every semester. People constantly ask me, so, are you going to have children? When are you going to have children? And I'm like, no. In a way, I have, 200 children, or adults really, every semester. And my legacy carries on through them. I don't have to have my blood for my legacy to carry on through them. I know that was kind of more than a sentence, but sorry.
It's just really, really helpful to kind of see who you are as a person and how you're working out your sense of call in your own vocation, right? And obviously with those 200, I'm going to use your term, like your 200 children or legacy or students that you're having every semester, you've made a big impact. And as you think about the impact that you've made, of course we think about the people who've impacted you. So could you tell us about one or two people who've most impacted you to help you understand your sense of call?
There's a lot of people. I've mentioned my graduate school advisor. His name was Carl Johnson. At Central Michigan University, had a huge impact on my research interests as well as my love for teaching, because he was an excellent teacher. I still wish I was, half the teacher that he was back then. So as far as, from a vocational standpoint, I would say that he had a major impact on me that way. I would also say, and I had other professors in college that helped steer me in that direction as well. But I would also, of course, give major credit to my parents. My parents are some of the best people I know. They always encouraged me. Even, the 5 or 6 times I changed my major, they're like, whatever you want to do, honey. When I picked up after graduation and moved 1,000 miles away to Mississippi, they supported me all along the way. They helped me, move back to the Upper Peninsula and move down here. And, wherever my life has taken me, they've always followed right along and encouraged me through everything I've done. Always you can do whatever you want to do with your life, kind of, that all parents say, but they've always done that. They come down here all the time. They spend 5 or 6 months here in the winter time.
Yeah, your mom has almost become a fixture at UPike events and UPike Life.
Yeah, almost. The sad thing is, or I guess it's actually a good thing. I don't know. The funny thing is, of course, everybody. Although someone just a few weeks ago said, "I didn't know Larry was your husband." I'm like, "Where have you been?" But everyone, of course, knows Larry. Larry and I are everywhere. Everyone also, when my mom is here, she goes to basketball games. We go to, softball, baseball games. We go to, plays, and she helps me do Psych-Chi stuff, which is our Psychology Honor Society. All of those kids know my mom. She comes to the induction ceremonies and movie nights and helps me out with all of that stuff. A lot of people also know my mother-in-law, Larry's mom. She's around campus quite a bit as well. So
it takes a family. So if a person were watching this today and they heard about your life and they say, you know what, Dr. Epling, like, you're really living what I want to do. What did you do to put yourself in this position?
Well, it's not easy to answer. I mean, for the most part, when you go to graduate school for psychology or any discipline, they don't really train you to be a teacher. You don't really get any formalized training in that. Even when I was like a TA and stuff, they just kind of threw you in and said, hey, you're going to teach this class. And I'm like, okay. So you don't really ever receive any formal training in actually teaching. So a lot of it was thinking back to those amazing professors that I had and trying to pull a few things from them, But that doesn't always work. What works for one person doesn't work for everyone else. And so it was really a lot of trial and error. Trying different things out, seeing what worked, what didn't, Sometimes things just don't work out. You try something and it just is an utter failure. And it's just like, okay. But you learn from those. And that's a lot of how I got to be where I am today, is just trying things out. Some things worked, some things didn't. But you learn a lot from those things that you try that don't work out the way that you want to. And so I always encourage students, to get out and try things. Because that's how you're going to find out what you like, what you enjoy, what works for you. Because I can tell you what works for me, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you.
So, with all the conversations you've had with your students over the years, obviously we deal with students who come into the office and say, you know what, it's advising time and or scheduling time, and I just have no idea. I just have no idea what I should do with my life. So when you have a student like that, what advice do you give them?
If they're early in their academic career, I tell them what I just told you. Try some different stuff out. Take some classes that are outside your comfort zone. Take an art class or a music class or theater. Take something that's religion or something outside your comfort zone, something that you might not think that you would enjoy. Because I remember being an undergrad and I took an archaeology class my senior year. And I was literally one semester from being done. It was maybe my favorite class ever. I was like, man, I wish I'd have taken this class 4 years ago. And I could have, done a minor or a major or something in that. But it was a gen ed requirement that never occurred to me that I would even enjoy. And it was one of my favorite classes. So take some of that stuff, especially if you're coming into college and you're undecided about what you want to do for a major or a career. take some different stuff. You'll eventually find what you're passionate about, what you just love. And whether that's your major or your career or just, something you do extracurricularly or as a minor. I have a lot of students who do minors in art or music, theater, because those areas really tie in well with psychology. There's huge areas related to art and music therapy, psychodrama type stuff where you can work out your issues using artistic talents and abilities. So I have a number of students who are working in art therapy and things like that, so it allows them to combine their passions together. But I didn't know what I wanted to do when I started college either. So you just kind of have to feel your way through and try some different things, and you'll be like, yeah, I don't like this. Or, oh yeah, this is awesome. And over time, life kind of shows you your path. But like I said, sometimes, I took a business class my first semester in college, and because I was thinking about being a business major, and I was like, and as soon as after I took that class, I'm like, no, this is not for me. Because I had thought about combining the business with psychology and doing like industrial organizational psych or something like that, but it just wasn't interesting to me as far as, there's a difference between the things that you love and the things, well, I could do it, but would I be happy doing it? And that's what I tell my students all the time. They come in here and they sit down and they say they want to be a doctor or a lawyer or this or that, and I'm like, why? Why do you want to do this? Is it your passion, or are you just doing it because that's what your parents do, or what your parents have, wanted you to do your whole life? The parents want, they want you to be a doctor, or they've been pushing you to be a doctor your whole life, but it's not what you really want. So why do you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or this or that? Because I tell my students all the time, if you don't love it, you don't love whether it's just a job or it's your calling or whatever, but if you don't love it and you don't enjoy going to work every day, your life is going to be miserable. And so I really try to help my students figure out what they're passionate about, so that when they graduate, if they go to graduate school or they get a job, they actually love what they're doing. Because I watched people, my parents were kind of blue collar, manual type labor jobs, and they made decent money. We could get by, but they didn't love their jobs. In fact, in some ways, they hated going to work every day. And I just could never imagine myself having to go to work every day in a job that I didn't like. So, when people kept telling me, psychology? What are you going to do with psychology? You can't make any money at that. That wasn't the point.